The 2023-2024 college football season is almost upon us, and we need to talk about the top storylines right now. Okay, so storyline number one. Georgia has already won the national championship 2 years in a row. This year would obviously make a three-peat. So the top storyline is Georgia's quest for a three-peat national championship. This year is interesting. They lost their quarterback, Stetson Bennett, and they also lost 25 other players to the NFL draft. That is insane. It is going to be interesting to see how they are able to reload their talent and defend their title. Next up, we have realignment. If you lived under a rock, you probably wouldn't have known that realignment is a huge part of college football. Last year, USC and UCLA announced that they were leaving the Pac-12 for the Big Ten. That was a huge change. Well, this year it's a little different. The Big 12 is welcoming 4 new members: BYU, Cincinnati, UCF, and Houston. Texas and Oklahoma will remain in the conference. Next year will be their first year in the SEC conference. This is going to be interesting to watch, especially to see how these 4 new programs are going to do and how Texas, who is the heavy favorite to win the Big 12, is going to do this year, given that they've underperformed pretty much every other year. Spring games have been a big storyline. The spring games have given us some insight on some other interesting storylines that we followed. First, Michigan. Michigan's quarterback situation will be interesting, and their running back, Blake Corum, who has suffered injuries and was a Heisman candidate last year, will be an extremely interesting player to watch this year. Along with spring games, it's been very interesting to see how the transfer portal is going to work out for a lot of teams. 2 notable teams that have really benefited from the transfer portal is USC, who is always reloading on offensive talent through the portal, and Colorado, which Deion Sanders just joined as the head coach, has completely dumped out the old roster, which did very poorly in the Pac-12, and brought in a ton of new talent. FBI projections. The FBI projections predict the top teams to make the playoff this year. And if you know anything about college football, I bet you can guess who those 4 teams are going to be, because they're in these projections almost every single year. I'll give you a hint. The SEC and the Big Ten have all 4 of them: Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Michigan. It's going to be very interesting as the season goes along to see if any other teams can knock one of these 4 teams out, like TCU was able to do last year. Now I want to talk about 5 players that you're going to want to keep an eye out for this season. A few of them may surprise you and a few of them may not. The first one is Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is a transfer quarterback, transferred from Oklahoma to USC. He won the Heisman Trophy last year, and he's projected to be the number 1 picked quarterback in next year's draft. This is going to be a huge year for him. Brock Bowers, the tight end coming out of Georgia, also had a huge season last year. It's going to be an absolute make it or break it type of season for him to see how high he's drafted in the first round. Mikael Williams, the defensive edge from Georgia. Williams is a rising star on Georgia's defense and is expected to be one of the key contributors this year. Then arguably the most talented wide receiver in all of the nation for Ohio State is Marvin Harrison Jr. Harrison Jr. is projected to have an absolute monster season this year and to go high in the draft next year as well. The last player is Johnny Newton, who is a defensive lineman for Illinois, a team that is not really talked about as much as the other teams that these players were on. Johnny Newton is projected to also have a large breakout season as well.